Well, welcome to this episode of the Willingdon on Mission podcast. My name is John, one of the pastors at Willingdon Church. If you are tuning in for the first time to this podcast, you have caught us in episode 4 of a 4-episode series with Antony Law. Antony is our missionary of the month in August of 2024. Antony, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
And also, if this is your first time ever catching the Willingdon on Mission podcast, there is a whole growing library of podcast episodes with Willingdon missionaries. So as of this recording, I think there are 25 different episodes that you could catch, all from 2024. And so if you would love to get to know our missionaries better, this is an opportunity. So if you haven't caught the last 3 episodes with Antony, please do. There's a wonderful episode where he introduces himself and his family. There's a wonderful episode where he talks about, I said they're both wonderful, they are, but where he talks about his ministry specifically with East Asia diaspora populations. And then there's a really important episode where Antony talks about his mental health journey and some of the experiences that he's had with that. This time, what I would like to talk about is the topic of transition. And so I've known Antony for a long time. I've been a pastor at Willingdon for just 10 years, but prior to that, I worked with a mission agency and knew Antony in his previous role. And so I was working for a mission agency and he was working for a church. Now we've switched, actually. And I'm working for a church and he's working for a mission agency. But
still serving the same God.
Still serving the same God, and with very similar hearts and ministry.
Yeah.
So it's fun to know each other. What I've watched in Antony's life is a series of a couple of transitions in ministry, where he went from a church to a particular agency that he was asked to lead, and now he's got a different role. So Antony, can you just tell us, what have you learned about transition, discerning God's invitations, managing change, that sort of thing?
I think I want to trace back even more earlier in my life. Yeah, when I think when God called me to Canada to study, actually I can tell that every time the transition, I don't want to move on. Because I'm that kind of person. I want to stable. Yeah, and everything just I can handle. So I think 25 years ago when God called me to Canada, actually during that time, I know that my wife and I will be getting into seminary to be prepared to be a servant of God. Yeah. But all my application I sent to is in Asia. So Hong Kong, of course, yeah, the seminary I want to get into. And I told God, if not Hong Kong, then Taiwan is okay. Yeah. Singapore is also okay. That's not too far away. Yeah. So I'm checking all this, but God told me and very clearly that he wants me to go to Canada, to Regent College. For me, Regent is very academic and also need to use English. And I asked God why I can use Chinese in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan. Yeah. During that time, struggle a lot. I always wrestle with God. Yeah. But I know that I need to obey, but God, you need to let me know the reason. And God told me clearly that in Hong Kong, in your comfort zone, you are managing your theological study with your own effort and ability. And even your home church and your family is in Hong Kong. So you have a lot of things to rely on besides me. But in Canada, you have nothing. The only way you can rely on is me. Yeah. So, and I struggle a lot. And this gesture is always what God wants me to practice. Is not hold tight onto what you want to, but release. And not just release and nothing in your hand. Release so that I can put my blessing upon you and to pour out my blessing upon you. In this way, how can you hold my blessing? So I leave Hong Kong's 3-year study in Regent College is not easy. Yeah, because I was a designer and Regent is very academic. So I need to change my whole method of study. Yeah, and afterward, actually before the year before I graduate, I returned to Hong Kong. And during that time, my church here, that event later become the church I served for 20 years, has sent me an invitation to be a mission pastor. So I returned to Hong Kong and I tried to seek more of information where to go. So during that time, one of the things I tried to sort it out is to find out, put down the list. I have a list to put down the list of Hong Kong and also the list of Canada. I found that this I cannot find out the will of God because everywhere we have this. So I put more to listen to the body of Christ, other people speaking to me, and a lot of people saying that, okay, come back to Hong Kong. And yeah, we have something for you. The day before I leave Hong Kong, yeah, I pray. I say, God, you need to let me know. Yeah, I want to obey, but you need to let me know. And God told me that tomorrow, because the next day I'm going to meet with my senior pastor in Hong Kong. Yeah. So, and God told me that my servant is going to speak to you. Listen carefully to what he speaks. And I think that, okay, all his associate asked me to stay in Hong Kong, and he's a senior pastor. He knows there's a position for me. So I am thinking, okay, God, you are speaking through my senior pastor to ask me to stay in Hong Kong. So the next day, Mabel and myself, we went to my senior pastor's office, and he listened to my story about everything. My senior pastor to give this spiritual discernment. So afterward, he paused a while and he told me, he just very calmly and said that, Anthony, I cannot see there any other excuse or reason you're not staying in Canada and serve in this church. It shocked me. Yeah. But because God is so clearly telling me that to listen to his servant, I think, okay, this is something God just spoken. But I still wrestling with God. I say, like a lot of the spiritual people, I need God's word affirmation. And God, you haven't given your word affirmation to me. Yeah, and I need your affirmation. Otherwise, I cannot convince you. So I keep praying, keep praying, keep praying. The whole journey, the day before I leave Hong Kong, nothing. So when I'm sitting on the flight and asking God, what you want me to do next? I'm going back to Vancouver and need to prepare my church. And there's still nothing. But when the flight leave Hong Kong and the wheel lift up and leave the land of Hong Kong, God's will come immediately. And it's Genesis 12, 1-3. Leave your homeland, leave your fatherhood, and go to the place that I will bless you to be a blessing, and all nations will be blessed by you. So I picked the first part. The later part seems too much arrogant. But you ask me all this transition, why I talk so much about this 20-something years ago thing, is because every time during the transition, a lot of time, I was a senior pastor, and God asked me to leave that role and leave that position after serving 20 years. And I say that no, I don't want to leave. But God told me that I have my plan for you. And 20-something years ago, when I brought you to Canada and I keep you in Canada to give you the promise, I will bless you, you will be a blessing, and all nations will be blessed by you. And this promise still haven't fulfilled. So from that, God told me that I'm moving you out. I have already trained you enough in this 20 years in this church, and now I'm moving you to another place. During that time, I didn't know where to go. But God led me to a mission training center to train people to share the gospel. And I think that that's my ultimate place that God want me to serve. But after 2 years, God let me know that now is almost time. I think what I think is my ultimate praise. And God said, this is just a transition. Yeah, I'm putting you here for the next ministry. So 20 years plus 2 years is for something that I want to fulfill my calling on you. During that time, the first time I need to lead my church is a lot of struggle. The second time, because I already know how God works. Yeah, so I'm trying to, okay, I leave and let me know. And eventually God brought me to OMF. And when God called me to OMF, I have a lot of struggle. Oh, this is a old man fellowship. And this
And
is,
fellowship.
and when the application process also, this is this is what the colleague told me, and not I comment on this organization, old man fellowship, and also one more form, and 1 billion form. Yes, we have a lot of things. I say, God, why you need to, and also we need to we need to do our own partnership building and fundraising. Yeah, it's 100% from Hudson Taylor. The practices like this is a totally 100% faith organization. So that's also my struggle. Even though I've many years in ministry, every month I have my paycheck. Yeah, but now I need to rely on, have faith on God's provision. So I say, why women? And now I know, because God put me in diaspora mission. And when you remember what I talked about 20 something years ago, when the flight leave Hong Kong, what God has promised me is to, I will lead you to, I want to leave your fatherhood, your homeland, to the place that I'm sending you. That's Canada. And I will bless you to be a blessing, and all nations will be blessed by you. And now I'm serving a diaspora ministry. Canada is a place that God called all the nations to stay here as their home. And when I serve in Canada, I can serve all nations. I hope that my obedience can be a blessing to all nations. So this is also a prayer request that when I obey, there's still a lot of way, there's also a lot of struggles and a lot of things that I need to learn to continue to walk on God's path. But I just hope that God's promise will fulfill that. Even though in the smallest thing I do, I hope that other nations will be blessed by me. Yeah. So this is how I go through all this kind of transition. It's not just one time, but all the journey, all these years. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. So what let me just reflect a couple of things that I've heard for those of you who are watching and listening. Transition happens, right? In our lives, and so I've heard a couple of postures from you that I think are really important. One is this posture of an open hand, right? And just saying, okay, Lord, I'm actually gonna release what I'm trying to hold on to and have my hands open so that I can receive your blessings. So that's one posture. Another posture or practice is do everything you can to be attentive to the leading of God. So I'm just thinking of when you left Hong Kong, that you did a couple of things. You were praying. You also sought the counsel of a trusted brother, the senior pastor, and then you heard from the Lord with clarity, and so that's important. Just to actually try to hear from the Lord. But then equally, well, I don't know if it's equally, but it's also important is not only did you hear from God, but you obeyed, right? In all of these transitions, you're like, okay, God, it's time for me to move to the next thing. I'm willing to follow your lead, even though it wouldn't be what I would choose necessarily, or it's hard, or I don't know what the future holds, but you were ready and willing. So thanks. I think those are helpful principles.
And one last reminder for brothers and sisters, that is, don't worry that you cannot wrestle with God. Yeah, our God is big enough for us to wrestle with Him. But when you wrestle with Him, try to know Him more and know yourself more, and not just, I want to win God. You cannot win God, but the wrestling actually is helping us to know what He wants us to do. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the end of this
Yeah.
4-episode series with Antony. Again, those of you who are watching, if you haven't listened to the other 3, please do. It will be well worth your time. You'll invest an hour getting to know Antony better. So God bless you all. Thank you, Antony. May the Lord
Thank
continue
you.
to work in you and through you in awesome ways.
Thank you very much.